In Terry's story, we learned about his love of touring on his motorcycle. While Terry doesn't own a Harley, many north of 49ers do, and for many of the same reasons Terry loves his bike. We asked a Harley expert to join us and explain just what is it about Harleys.
Well, there's three things that might apply or likely apply in Terry's case. First of all, it's a reward. When you get to a certain age, you've achieved a certain measure of success, you want to have those tokens that say, I've made myself somebody. Harley Davidson's very unique in that respect, so it's a great reward symbol. At the same time, that's a reward for them because they're thinking back on their childhood. It was something they've seen police riding, they've seen their friends, maybe even their dad riding. So there's a history there and they want to be a part of that history. And the third thing that I believe would be applicable based on the customers we've got, it's the idea to get out and experience not just the road, but everything about nature and being out on the road. Not just the sights, but the smells, the sounds, the experiences of meeting people. When you pull into a parking lot on a Harley Davidson, conversations immediately start. Even if it's just, somebody kind of giving you the sidelong glance and nice bike, and it begins.
But am I right in thinking it's pretty physical though? Is it not a young person's game though?
No, not at all. And that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions about motorcycling in general, but Harley Davidsons in particular. They look like big bikes, and they are, let's face it, they weigh a few pounds. That works to your advantage on the highway in that once it's up and it's balanced, they almost ride themselves. You just basically make sure you stay safe. So they're very easy to ride that way. They're very safe to ride that way. But you don't want to be foolish and do some of the things we see some younger people doing on really light, fast bikes. By the time you get north of 49, you figured out a couple of lessons. You don't have to race down the hill. You take your time.
It's the kind of freedom thing, the wind in your hair and stuff, but you've got a big honking helmet on, you've got a lot of gear on. I mean, it's something you got to prepare for. You don't just go out and buy a bike and off you go, right?
Well, unfortunately, some people do. And we do have to be a little bit careful. At the dealership, we do try to make sure that when we're talking to people that are getting back into motorcycling for the first time in a long time, they might have ridden when they were 20, but then they get married and they have kids and they kind of drop by the wayside. Then the kids grow up, they get back into it. Now they want to get back into biking. They're still thinking they're 20 and they're pulling out their gear from 1970.
Nothing fits, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Didn't think the cow was that small. But the reality is we try to make sure they've got all the proper gear. Now, proper gear is defined differently by different people, but certainly a proper DOT-approved helmet, leather jacket, chaps if they'll wear them because they do provide some protection, gloves, boots above the ankles, that sort of thing. As somebody once said, and I hate to mention it, but it's the reality, you don't dress for the ride, you dress for the crash. And when you ride smart, it's unlikely you'll ever have that happen, but wouldn't you rather be losing the cow's hide than your own?
Yeah, absolutely. And riding smart, avoiding the crash. I'm assuming you take courses and stuff like that if you're...
That's something we also strongly recommend, an advanced rider course, especially if you're rusty. If you're coming back into it for the first time in a long time, it helps a lot to get the skills back up, get the reflexes back up, learn a lot from the experience of others.
Now you're talking about people coming back after being rusty. I've never actually ridden a motorcycle myself.
We can solve that.
If I want to be a motorcycle mama, what am I looking at in terms of easing in? Is it a pretty daunting process? Or?
Not at all. And first of all, the question would be, do you want to ride on the back or on the front? But if you want to have the handlebars in hands, again, look at lessons. It's a great way to learn it properly. It's not that hard. They start you off on relatively small motorcycles and they build you up to the level of your confidence and your skill, depending on the kind of riding you're doing. And I think that's the biggest factor. If you only want to ride to and from work, that's one skill set, if you will. If you want to ride on weekends with your friends over to, say, Hope for coffee or something, lunch, that's another skill set. If you want to do like Terry's doing, and you're out on the road a lot, that's an entirely different skill set, and you just take the lessons appropriately.
Guy Wilton, it sounds like a whole lot of fun. Thanks for explaining it all. I'm going to go look for my leather chaps right now.
Done.
Yeah.
North of 49, a guide to the rest of your life.